So about 10 weeks ago, I signed up for what is my biggest physical and mental challenge. It's to swim across the heads of Port Phillip Bay, which is a 3.2 kilometre swim from Point Nepean to Point Lonsdale. Now, I've never done anything like this before, and I'm way out of my comfort zone here, but I got the opportunity today to speak to Grant, who is one of the directors of the RIP Swim. And yeah, basically just sort of see where I'm at in terms of my training and yeah, get a bit of an idea of what's to come and what to expect on the day. At the moment, I'm sort of spending about an hour in the bay trying to acclimatise to the 13-degree temperatures. And yeah, and obviously what's to come in the next sort of 6 weeks. Grant is one of the founders of the RIP Swim. Can you tell me a little bit about this, please, Grant?
Yeah, sure. I mean, the Rip Swim started in, what have we got, 2014, and my mate Don Riddington and I set it up. And oh, look, it was a really exciting stretch of water, obviously, to run a swim. So we thought, let's do it. I swam it in 2013, I think it was, with a few friends, just sort of quietly, and then thought, wow, that'll be a great swim to set up and give people the opportunity to do, because it was sort of a bit semi-illegal, really. And people were sort of sneaking around in the background doing it. So I thought, let's try and set it up properly so people can not have to sneak around behind closed doors doing it.
Yeah, nice. So now Douglas Muse, he was the first person to do it, or was he the first person to do the winter one, or?
Yeah, no, he was sort of first to do it. You hear a lot of stories of people doing various things, but on record, he's the first one to do it. So yeah, 1971. I still have never found out why he did it in winter, but maybe he thought the tides were favourable. Not too sure, but he set off there from Point Lonsdale, had a bit of goose fat on him, and he had a neoprene cap and just some budgies, and off he went. And there's a nice picture of him with about 100 people sort of cheering him on from the Point Lonsdale side, and he hopped in and he had a couple of boats with him, and he swam across to Point Nepean and landed on the land there. So went the opposite way to the way we normally go.
Yeah. Yeah,
So yeah,
nice.
pretty epic. That first swim was epic because obviously the first person doing it, people think you're really nuts, and
Yeah.
it's got such a history of shipwrecks and sort of some tragic things that happened there. So the first person's always the bravest, I reckon.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, definitely. Now, how long have you been into your sort of open water swimming?
Oh, look, I mean, I've always swum, and probably since about 2008, I started to get more into the open water stuff, and then I started doing some longer swims. And Don, who I set the program up with, he took on the English Channel, and he wanted me to coach him. So I sort of said, "Look, I'll coach you, but I probably have to have a go myself." So I ended up having an attempt at the English Channel, 2012. I didn't make it, which was a bit of a disappointment, obviously. But seeing him make it the next year was great, as the oldest Australian. And then from then, just quite a lot of winter swimming, and I guess always the last 12 or 13 years I've stayed in the bay through the winter. I've got a bit slack this year, but I'm still doing a bit, probably not as much as most of the people I've encouraged now who are doing various goals. But yeah, it's been quite a big routine, I guess, for the last 12 or 13 years. Yeah.
Yeah, nice. And how many times have you swum the winter rip? So the rip is the swim from, what is it, technically from Fort Nepean to Point Lonsdale.
Yeah, so the rip is actually technically is 3 points. So basically the rip is a triangular body, which is from Point Nepean across to Point Lonsdale and then Queenscliff. So that triangle forms the rip. We swim from Point Nepean, deep water. We're not allowed onto the beach anymore these days. Parks Victoria don't let us go on there. But basically from Point Nepean to Point Lonsdale is our crossing, 3.2 kilometres in a straight line. Most people swim probably 3.6, 3.7, maybe up to 4 kilometres. So I've swum it with a group of friends initially. We went from Point Lonsdale to Point Nepean and landed on the beach, because those quieter swims you can sort of get on the beach. But now that I've got this a project that's very official, we've got to really do the right thing by the authorities. And then I did a double, actually. I swam across from Point Lonsdale to Point Nepean and then came back. I didn't get my tides quite right, so I landed at Queenscliff on the second leg. And then I did a winter tribute swim to Doug Mew. So 2016, I think it was. Yeah, did a winter swim. And once again, that was from the Point Lonsdale to the Point Nepean, right onto the beach. And that was a lovely swim. It's probably my favourite. And the Age came out and did a bit of a story. So that was a tribute to him. I think it was 45 years later I did mine. So I think I'm the second person to do it in winter.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
Or crazy, one way or the other.
Well, mate, you're lining up. So if I'm crazy, you're crazy too.
I'm getting pretty nervous. There's only been 47 people to do the winter one. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. So we've had about 700 people. I think, I forget the exact number, maybe 732 it could be, across in summer, and 47 only in winter. So obviously it's another layer of challenge being in there without the wetsuit. Temperature's probably around about 12 degrees. There's a little talk of it maybe being a little cooler this year, but I'd be surprised if it's much less than that. So about 12 degrees. Most people are in the water for about an hour and 15, but we did have one lady who's in there for 2.5 hours and still made it across. So that was an extreme, though. I don't think anyone this year is going to be out there that long. I really hope they're not. I don't think you will be, mate. You got a bit of speed.
I hope not. Yeah, I've sort of been doing a bit of, like, obviously training with at the moment, and I spent like a bit over an hour in the water the other day, and I got out and sort of had like a bit of I was shaking like pretty bad. And yeah, just sort of tried to I was close to my mum's and sort of swum like from Bomb Beach to Chelsea Pier and then Chelsea Pier back to Bomb Beach, and got out, and I just sort of went home in my shorts and basically jumped in the shower and did all the things I probably shouldn't have done, and I started getting like white fingers and like the sort of red hand, and then I looked down and my feet were like purple, and I sort of started freaking out. Like I really sort of started a bit, and chucked on 2 pairs of socks and like trackies and 2 t-shirts, 2 jumpers, and even I was like shaking uncontrollably for like 45 minutes after the swim.
Yeah, right, okay.
And then in the end, about 2 hours later, I ended up sort of coming good, and took off all my jumpers, and like I was back to normal then. But it was quite scary. Like that was actually sort of quite scary. So,
well, that's probably good that you've seen some of those stages, because I mean that's certainly stages of hypothermia, absolutely. And as you can see, the after drop when you finished, you probably felt reasonable in the water, I guess. But yeah, when you get out, sometimes it can hit you. So you got to watch those cold showers, because they say it's just a bit dangerous sometimes. Sorry, the hot shower at the end, if it's too hot, it sends the cold blood to your heart. So you got to be careful. But yeah, those colours in the skin and all that, it's just where the blood's going. It's a different sort of thing going on. But yeah, you got to be careful, and you got to be consistent and really build into it. But it's good you've at least seen, I guess, some of the extremes. You did an hour, did you?
Yeah, it was 65 minutes. So I was like in the pool at the moment. I'm swimming 3K in pretty much an hour. So I'm happy with that. But yeah, in the water, just obviously with the chop, and like being so close to the shoreline as well, like the waves are breaking and like the whole time. So I found that to be like, going towards Chelsea, it probably took me closer to 40 minutes, and then swimming back was like 20. So, I'm sort of hoping that once we're out there, it's obviously you're not going to be going, well, hopefully it's not, the waves aren't going to be breaking over the top of me the whole time, but
no, it's in some ways it's less choppy. You get a bit more of a rolling swell. It's quite a big swell, so it can feel quite strange. Sometimes more maybe for the kayakers, but yeah. Look, if it's good to practice in all that chop, because obviously the worst conditions you swim in, then you'll be really well prepared.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nice. So yeah, July the 8th is the big swim. So we've got like 6 weeks, or 5 or 6 weeks now leading up to it. Is there any sort of, like, obviously you want to be able to swim the 4 kilometers, so, and time in the water you're averaging, you reckon, somewhere between 60 and 2 hours, like 60 minutes and
Yeah,
120?
look, it's interesting. A lot of our swims a few years ago took probably an hour and 20, maybe an hour and 40. We've started using the tides a little bit differently now, having got to know them better. So we're using the tides to our advantage, and a lot of the swims have been more like about an hour and 10.
Yeah,
So hopefully, if the tides are, we can work them well on that day. People that ride your speed will get across in about an hour, maybe an hour and 10, hour and 15. But it's important for people, I think, to be able to stay in the water for at least an hour and a half, or 75 to 90 minutes. Just have a little bit of leeway there for room for error. We've got a couple of people who are fairly slow, so who knows? They might push out to that 2 hour mark. I guess the difference this year is we've got a few solos. So, like, obviously you're going with a kayaker, and we've got a few groups. We've got a group of 3, group of 4, but there's 3 duos and there's a few solos.
yeah,
So it's a little different this year. There'll be more kayakers out there, and it'll be an interesting sort of process. But yeah, 6 weeks away. I've been saying to people that the acclimatization is probably the main thing, but obviously if people can improve a little bit on speed, it just means they're out there for a shorter period of time. So they're less at mercy for the tide and the cold and the wind and the chop. But, 6 weeks away, people are probably not going to make a huge change in speed.
yeah,
But it's probably more making sure you don't drop off your pace as you get a bit tired and a bit cold. And that's the other thing about the cold that you start to learn, is that when you get cold, you're just a bit weaker.
yeah.
So being able to maintain your pace, let alone go faster, is more challenging. So yeah, as you get closer, I think the more important thing probably is the acclimatization, rather than the pool work and the speed. Some people I've got doing some speed work in the pool to help a bit, but really certainly the next 6 weeks, important being in the bay.
Yeah, yeah, no, definitely. I've sort of, like, the last couple of years, I've sort of enjoyed doing, like, just a cold water immersion and just sort of sitting there. But I still, every Sunday, go down with a couple of mates and we'll jump in the water and just, have a chat for half an hour while we're sort of in there, and it's good. But it's something completely different doing this swim, because you've got your face like buried in this water, and you're sort of starving yourself of oxygen and you're trying to breathe. Like, it's, so yeah, like, I was sort of got your cap and then I got these caps, and like I've sort of found, like, I'd never really worn one before because obviously I sort of haven't been into swimming much. And then I went and got one of these ones the other day, which is like one of those neoprene. And
Oh, nice.
so yeah, like, I'm hoping this today will be my first day swimming with this, because after Wednesday last week, I was like, I need to get something a bit better than that, because yeah, just I really battled, and I was like, whatever advantage I can get, because obviously during the winter one, we're not allowed to wear a wetsuit.
Yeah, so that's the thing, is you do lose a lot of heat from your head. So and I've got a head a bit like yours with not a lot of hair on it. So it's important to have a cap on. And it's funny because the English Channel, you can only wear, I think it's even just a latex cap, not even a silicone cap. And I thought carefully about what we could use here, but Doug actually had a neoprene cap on in 1971. So
Yeah.
you can see it in the picture. So I figured, well, if he had the neoprene cap, I can at least let people wear a neoprene cap.
Yeah.
But yeah, look, as you say, immersing yourself in cold water is one thing. It's great for a lot of benefits for physical and mental health. But yeah, the actual swim, having to travel, having to actually swim through the water, as you say, with your head down, there's a kayaker guiding you, but it is a very different experience. And funnily enough, with immersion, you can stay quite still, and you can probably retain more heat. Whereas when you're swimming, you've got a double-fold effect of not only using energy, which makes your body work harder to stay warm, but also the flow of water across your skin cools you down a lot. So that's it's a big difference between actually swimming through the water and just staying in the water nice and still. You know, they say if you're trying to survive cold water, you go into the huddle. You basically just stay as still as you can, because there comes a point where you can't produce enough heat. People say, "Oh, if I go really fast, I'll get warm and I'll be warm," but that doesn't last very long. Your body needs to
No.
basically retain heat by staying still. So, yeah, mate, get the cap on and try that out. And I think it's regularity. You know, 6 weeks away for you. If you can be in almost every day, you'll be good. You'll be all right.
Yeah, nice. All right. Well, so can you take us through what actually happens on the day? Like we jet off from Queenscliff.
Yeah, so we meet everyone at Queenscliff at the harbour there, and we'll get you on a boat. At the moment, we've got 20 swimmers and quite a few kayakers, and we'll then go from Queenscliff out to Point Nepean, deep water. So it's just about a 15-minute little trip. It's a great trip, actually, because you go past the Queenscliff Lighthouse. It's quite funny. Some people say, "Oh, is that where we're going?" And I go, no, make sure you don't swim to the Queenscliff Lighthouse. So we head out to nice deep water, and it's a really spectacular trip. You just get a feel of the sort of the magnitude of that body of water, which really is rated in the top 5. You know, on a bad day, it's rated in the top 5 most treacherous stretches of water anywhere in the world. Obviously, we don't go out on those days. So we know the limits, but yeah, you jump on the boat, you head out there, and you basically then just assess the last minute checks. I talk to shipping. We've got a gap now from shipping, which is huge actually. It just makes the project a little easier to run. So we chat to them. We assess the wind and have a look at the tides. Even though obviously I've studied when the right time to go is. We have a quick look at the end just to see how the movement of the water is. And then get the kayakers on. So the kayakers hop on the water first. And they're good, actually, because they can give me a little bit of last-minute information about the way the water's flowing. And then once they're in position, bang, in you guys jump. Swim straight to your kayakers. Say, "G'day." Not much time for too much of a chat. Obviously, there's no kind of really getting used to the water because you guys are just going to hop in straight off the boat and give yourself, like a minute just to kind of get ready and get your breathing under control, and then away you go. And so then the job of the kayakers is to guide you. And, by the time you guys start, I'll have a pretty good idea of what your speed is. And I'm going to try and make sure that there's a good plan with the kayakers about the best course. Because we've actually got a strong tide that day. So the combination of your swimming speed and the tide is what we need to work with to give you the best course.
Yeah.
And anyway, so you head out there, and we sort of let you know when you're roughly halfway. If you're compass mentis, we'll get you to have a quick look over at the lighthouses at Queenscliff, so you'll know you're halfway. There's an incredible method of navigation where literally there's a sort of a black lighthouse, and then there's 3 other towers. And by lining up any of those towers, you know when you're on if you think of the shipping lane as a highway, you know when you're on the edge of the highway, you know when you're in the middle of the highway, and you know when you're on the other edge about to exit. And that's always been crucial for us with shipping. As I said, now we've got a gap, they're stopping them for us. It makes it a lot easier. But anyway, that's sort of the halfway point. And then as we get towards the other end, that's where we've got to make sure you're in a good spot, because the tide will start to come in at the end of our swim. And that's where we're trying to get into to the pier there at Point Lonsdale. So hopefully we've given you a good line to get into the pier. And then it's an exciting part when you guys see the pier and the lighthouse and you realize we're not far away, but it can still be a battle. You can think you're like 300 or 400 or 500 meters away, and that can still take a little while to get in at the end. And then the last part is just making sure you stumble up over those rocks. It's pretty rocky there at the end, and make sure we get you in safely.
Just another challenge.
And get you warm and get you recovered. So yeah, it's quite a process. And as you know, we did a bit of a visualization to kind of get that in your head of what's going to happen. Because I think even for experienced swimmers, when you hop on that boat and you go out, you just feel, that open body of water, it can be quite intimidating.
Yeah.
So that's the process. And we have a second day. So if the weather's terrible, we'll have another day to to have a go. I'm just going to close this window again. There's a bit of sun here. It's kind of an interesting effect.
Yeah, it looks pretty cool.
Oh, there we go.
So in terms of when we actually, hopefully get across the water and we're about to get out the other side, in terms of probably I know I'm going to have some friends and family there as well. In terms of me just getting out the water, the best scenario would be just to get out of those clothes and obviously dry out. And
yeah, it's something I really need to sort of impress upon people, because people are they can be quite buzzed. I mean, obviously some people can be compromised, to be honest. So we need to look after you. We need to basically take over. Some people can, occasionally, to be honest, they're not really thinking straight. All the blood's gone from their head just to their heart and lungs to keep them going, and they're not really functioning. So we need to kind of help them get changed. Their fingers are too numb to work. So we've got to actually physically help to get them in a car and get their clothes on and get them warm. But those of you who are sort of in good shape, it's still really important people get a bit carried away because they're a bit excited and their friends are there and they're high-fiving and it's fantastic. But really the swim's not over until we get you dry, we get you warm, and your body just comes back to normal. So yeah, we need to keep an eye on everyone. And really, because there's no facilities there, what we'll be doing is we'll be having some cars close by to the finish there, and anyone who's not warming up properly, we're going to just get them in a car basically and wrap them up in obviously clothes, maybe a sleeping bag, a blanket, some jackets, and just have someone in the car there keeping an eye on them. Maybe get the heater on just gently to warm you up. Yeah. So yeah, it's great to have friends there, and some people are fine. Some people, they get across. It's like the middle of summer. They're so well acclimatized. Everyone's different. I've seen people do it, and it's like, well, big deal. But as I said, I've seen other people who literally have lost their memory of the finish. So every case is different. Yeah. Hopefully you'll be fine. Hopefully you'll be cracking a few high fives and having a chat to your friends. But yeah, we'll be watching you closely because, as I said, now that drop, and we want to be able to go out and celebrate afterwards and have a nice chat about it and sort of make the most of the moment. So I want to make sure everyone recovers really well. And then maybe a couple of hours later, maybe we get together and have a bit of a celebration.
I'll be making sure I've got like a hot chocolate or sort of something just ready to go. Just to try and warm the body up. The
main thing is layers. Like just getting dry, getting lots of layers on, and obviously then if the winds, we've got to get out of the elements. That's the other thing. If it's windy, you just got to get away from the elements as quickly as possible. So and again, a couple of warm drinks.
Yeah.
And that's about it. Yeah.
Yeah. I found like, as you're saying, with people helping you get changed, because like you get out the water and your fingers are sort of like that or whatever, and you're trying to get your hand through like a jumper. So like I actually reckon I'm going to cut off the cuffs of a couple of hoodies and just be like, at least that way I'm not going to have any problems sort of getting them on, because it does, like, it's the last thing you want to be doing. You've just done that and then get out the water and you can't get your hand through. Like,
you're right. You've got to really think about, part of the preparation is knowing exactly what to do before the swim, obviously during the swim, and then exactly at the end to sort that out. And some of the jackets we've got, actually, these lovely parkas we bought. It's funny because the first one I ever bought was, it was a material where I tried to put my hand in and it got stuck. So the next lot I bought, I made sure it's actually a terry toweling. And so the terry toweling material was a lot easier. You could just actually slip your hand through. And you're right, a little thing like that. And like even just being able to do up a zip, it can be, it's not like life or death, but it's pretty damn uncomfortable. Support crew is really important. And the other thing is also for us and the kayakers and for the swimmers is having an awareness of how you're going during the swim, because you don't want to sort of leave things too late. You've got to kind of act early if you're feeling compromised. We did have one guy who was only probably 300 meters from the shore, and he hit the wall so badly with his getting cold, he just literally couldn't swim. He stopped almost on the spot. And Eugene, my kayaker, he had to basically tow this guy. And it's quite funny because Eugene's a small guy and he's on the kayak, and the kayak's on an angle like that. Towing this guy over the boat. I got the guy on, and then he sort of got on the ladder, and his hands were literally like frozen on the ladder. I had to literally peel his fingers off one by one, get him in. Half an hour later, he was fine. But it's interesting. People can go down pretty quickly. So for us, making sure that the kayakers are very vigilant And, sometimes we'll stop and ask the swimmer a quick question just to see where they're at.
Like,
To kind of go, what's your name? Where are you? What are you doing? And the main thing,
let me swim.
yeah. Well, that's okay. If they're saying that, that's great. Yep. The main thing is actually the stroke rate. You'll see if people are still stroking at the similar speed, then normally okay. It's when that stroke rate starts to drop.
And then struggling to get the water,
Yeah, just struggling to get moving, and then something's going on. So, yeah.
So that's where sort of at least having a kayaker there is going to help, because like last Wednesday when I was swimming, it's sort of, you're out there by yourself, and you start to, like, when I go swimming with Louise or, someone else, it's sort of, you feel a lot better knowing that someone's there, like just, in your own peace of mind. But obviously you are testing your body being out there, and someone like myself who's completely new to this as well, it's like your mind starts playing tricks on you, like sort of, oh, am I actually feeling all right here? But, if I am feeling like that, I'm probably okay. It's more when I'm just completely oblivious. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I think the thing is, it takes quite a lot of experience and a lot of practice in cold water to develop that sixth sense to work out whether you're okay or not. And ideally, yes, swim with someone else. I still think a little bit of solo swimming is good. It's like anything in life. It's a different headspace. When you go and do something by yourself, it's a different realm you enter. It's a real challenge to know, okay, it's just me out here. And, from a safety perspective and an event organizer and a coach, when I've got that hat on, I say, look, swim with someone else. But as a swimmer and someone who loves to take on some adventures, I used to do a lot by myself. But the thing about that is to be consistently, to increase your time in the water very gradually. So it's not like you're going to go, right, I can swim 20 minutes and then suddenly the next day you go and do an hour, because that's when you get in trouble. Whereas if you go 20 and you realize how you feel, then you go, right, I'm up to 25, I'm up to 30, I'm up to 35, I'm up to 40. That's the way to go. And as I said to you when you came on the swimming camp, with my experience in the English Channel, where I just got cold so gradually, I never realized. So in that case, if I'd been by myself, I probably would have been in huge trouble, because I never actually felt cold or tired. The blood went from my brain so gradually, and in the end, my stroke rate went from 60 to 30. So in that case, there was no awareness. It was so gradual. Yep, I'm fine. I always just thought I was fine, and then I wasn't at all. So it's actually better to kind of get the shivers quickly, because you go, oh yeah, I'm not feeling too good, I better do something. And that's where a lot of cold water swimming, if you're pushing your boundaries with time, it's best to do that very close to the shore.
Yeah.
If you can go around a mark or whatever, that's fine. But when you come back, do your pushing of boundaries close to where you can literally stand up, get out.
Yeah, nice. All right. Well, what else have I got here? So prior to the actual swim, like, would you actually sort of like try not to sort of stay warm, like be in a heated car and all that? Do you try and gradually bring your body temperature down, to it? Because like I've found when I've been training, I've sort of gone, from like wearing my trackies and Ugg boots and a nice ducted heated place, and then I go out to the water and I'm absolutely freezing, like.
Yeah, look, I suppose everyone develops a different method. I actually think it's better to stay warm right up to the last minute. I mean, I know that then there's a contrast of being, really warm and being, then jumping in cold water, but your body's going to have to work hard to survive the swim. So I don't think there's any point in actually going, well, I'm going to put my shorts on for the boat ride out to the heads. I don't think that's smart at all. I think you may as well stay warm as long as you possibly can. In terms of, acclimatization to cold water and generally letting your body adapt, in training, I think that's a slightly different equation. I mean, it was funny, no names here, but some people on the camp I know went back to their rooms after two of our swims and chucked the heaters on and kind of had the whole room 30 degrees. And people do use heaters a lot, and people use jackets. But I think if you're trying to get your body to change into a different sort of machine that adapts to the cold, I think walking around a bit during the day in shorts and a t-shirt is actually a really good thing. I mean, obviously not when you're sick, but we live in a world which we tend to try and change our environment a lot with devices, with heaters in cars and hot water blankets and, all that kind of stuff. Whereas if you're saying to your body, look, my body can adapt incredibly, let's make the most of that during the day. Let's not rug up, give my body a chance to adapt. So there's kind of those two different things, the long-term process of adaptation, but as I said, on the day, stay warm till you get in.
Yeah, right. All right, cool. Now, providing I do make it across this swim, what
You
other
will.
open?
You
I
will.
will. I know I will, mate. I'm pretty bloody determined for this. So once I step onto the sand at Point Lonsdale, what other open water swims would you sort of recommend? I'm really enjoying the training. I'm loving, I've almost become hooked on this, and I haven't even finished it. But
Yeah, it's a
yeah,
good question. There's so many. There's thousands of swims all around the world, and I suppose you got a few things to think about. I sort of put them in categories. So first of all, let's take the obvious thing is the distance. So you might say, okay, I've done a 1K swim, and then you might go, right, well, I want to do a 3K, I want to do a 5. The official marathon distance is 10Ks. So if you've done 10Ks, you can legitimately call yourself a marathon swimmer. So that's kind of a nice tag, I guess.
yeah,
So you've got the distance element, then you've got obviously the cold. So you might say, well, okay, I've done a 12-degree swim across the rip. Now I want to do an ice mile. So that would be one of the extreme swims, which is a 1.5 kilometer swim in less than 4 degrees, I think it is, and obviously without a wetsuit. So that's another category, is your cold, really cold stuff. Then you've got your sort of point-to-point swims, which I guess the rip falls into a little bit. I mean, it's not from one country to the other, but it's a point-to-point. It's across a famous stretch. And you've got swims like, obviously, the English Channel is like that. It's from one country to another. You've got the Gibraltar swim, which is from Europe to Africa. So I think if you look at the different categories, and for me, what I love the destination swims from here to here, rather than the ones that kind of go around in loops. A lot of event organisers run the loop ones because they're a bit safer, but it is nice to know that you're going, from A to B. I think that's a good concept. And the swims that have great historical significance too, are wonderful. But I guess it's like everything. People do one thing and they think, oh, I need a bit more now. So what am I going to do? Am I going to go longer? Am I going to go colder? Am I going to go rougher? Am I going to go sharky? These people that swim around San Francisco, there's a swim there that goes. There's the Alcatraz swim, which is another exciting one. You sort of pretend like you're breaking out of the jail, and you're Clint Eastwood, and you're gonna get across to safety. But there's also some sharky areas around there where people do that. So yeah, I mean, for me, there's a Bondi Beach to Watson's Bay swim, which I love, which is like a 10K swim. That's beautiful because it's out in the ocean. So yeah, that just gives you some things to think about. I think there's lots of ideas. I think you've got to do the research. There's some great websites, and you just got to say what ticks the box for me now. I've done that. Do I do that? Do I want to spend 30 hours a week training up for a long swim, or do I want to maybe focus on winter and see if my body can change?
yeah,
I used to struggle even in the middle of summer as a swimmer because I'm a skinny guy. I used to struggle in 14, 15, 16, 17 degrees. It used to get cold. So the concept for me of becoming a winter swimmer where I was out for 2 hours in 10, 11 degrees was a really interesting process for me, as a coach and as an athlete, to say, wow, the body can adapt.
yeah. That's comforting to know that it wasn't quite as natural for you.
No, it wasn't. Not at all. Not at all. I used to patrol at Portsea Back Beach for about 10 years as a member of the club there, and I can remember swimming out in 16, 17 degree water and then coming back and having a shower for about half an hour.
Yeah,
And
right.
then go 8 years ahead, and I'm in the bay through winter without a wedgie. So yeah, it's the body can adapt. Now I've gone soft again now. I'm watching all these other people I'm coaching doing ice miles and all this sort of stuff, and I'm 15 minutes out in the water, so I've got to turn it around again. But yeah, the world's your oyster, Conan, for different swims. Once you've done this, you might get the bug, and got a few people now I know have done the ice mile. I mean, that's really extreme. That can have, adverse effects on your body. So once again, that's the sort of thing you got to really build into.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
I've always sort of had a dream of like walking across the country, but like to actually swim to another continent, I'd actually like to go from Spain to Morocco. That'd be quite an achievement, I reckon.
Yeah, the Gibraltar one's one I've been eyeing off, and then there's the Robben Island swim, which I would love to do, but everyone keeps just putting the fear of the sharks into my head.
Where's
Down,
that?
so down in South Africa, where Nelson Mandela was housed when he was in jail for 27 years, Robben Island,
Yeah.
it's 7 kilometres off the mainland from Cape Town, and that's a great swim. That's about 13 degrees. I think they insist on no wetsuits.
And great white, obviously.
It's a 7 kilometre swim across pretty well-known great white sort of territory. No wetsuits, so that's a pretty fair income swim.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
So there you go. And then of course you can invent your own swim.
Yeah.
You think of a body of water that you want to swim across. Let me know, mate. Who knows? After the rip, you might be saying to me, "Oh well, I've come up with an idea."
Yeah. Oh well, I'll get my thinking cap on and have a bit of a look.
Yeah, no, mate, I commend you for taking this on, because I've seen, in 30 years of coaching, I've seen all different types of people come along. And generally speaking, they're people with a swimming background in terms of having done lots of bay swims and maybe swum as kids in squads, all that kind of stuff. That's the main category I had when we started this project, because all the people in the know with the bay swims, knew about the RIP and they came and did it. And what's happened now with the project, we're coming up to 10 years, is that people like yourself who perhaps from a slightly different background, different type of sports, not traditional swimming background, more like it's a bit of a mindset. It's like a bit of an adventurous character, maybe someone who's going through some challenges, who wants to, I think like you, wants to make a bit of a change in your life, maybe gravitating away from something towards something. And, I love that idea, because I get these people and I go, well, have you done much swimming like you? And you go, well, not really. And I go, well, what are you doing here? And then I see you swim, and I go, well, yeah, you can swim. That's great. But I find that really exciting. So, mate, big pat on the back for you for stepping up, because it's not like you've done 10 years of your stock stand. It's not, you haven't done 10 pier to pubs or, little 1K swims. You're stepping up into a pretty big challenge here. So,
well, 10 weeks ago, I couldn't even swim 150 meters. Like my heart was like ready to explode at the start of my training, and then, it's
That's a great example, and it's nice having this chat, and you can document it a bit, and it'd be nice to then maybe we'll put it up on the site and show people the pathway. Because it's interesting. Some people take it on and they're not ready, and they think they're ready and they're not. Other people think it's harder than it is. And look, it's not easy, particularly winter. But some people build it up. I think they build it up more because of the historical significance of the area, and they worry about sharks and they worry about ships and all that kind of stuff. So you get your two different types. Some people, yep, no worries, let's go. And other people are like, oh, no, I can't do that. But it's definitely doable. People who want to train and stick to it, they can get it done. Yeah. So nice. I'm looking forward to seeing you in action, that's for sure.
Yeah, me too. I'm looking forward to getting out the other side, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But this walk the plank, you do like a thing like walk the plank. What's this?
Oh, look, we only actually ran that once, so it's I kept thinking, gee, it'd be nice to set that up again. But all events take time and energy, and but it was fantastic. We actually hopped on the ferry, the Sorrento Queenscliff ferry. We hopped on. I had arranged with the CEO, Matthew McDonald, and he was good enough to allow me to do this as a trial. So 50 swimmers hopped on the ferry at Sorrento, and unbeknown to the general passengers who were just getting a normal trip across to Queenscliff, we were sort of commandeering the ferry for our own purposes. So he basically drove his normal route, and then when he got to Portsea, he spun the ferry around and he dropped open the gates at the end where the cars drive on, and I was dressed in a pirate outfit and I held the sword to the 50 swimmers, and they hopped into the water and they swam back with the incoming tide back down to Sorrento. And it was a great swim. It was It was a nice tidal swim. There's a well-known swim called the Pier de Perignon, which goes the other way. So we basically did a reverse version of that. And look, it's always hovering in my mind. Do we do that again? But mate,
Yeah, nice.
you can't do it all, but who knows? Maybe walk the plank will come back in.
Yeah, beautiful. All right. Well, yeah, thank you very much for this. I really, really appreciate it.
Pleasure. It's been great to have a chat, mate. It's been good to meet you, and I'm really looking forward to seeing you in action. And glad you're doing the training. How far are you going to swim today?
I think, well, I'm going to try and do the 3K. So if we'll sort of see how we're going. Like, as I say, I might even just, if we get to the 2.5, we sort of been checking in, like going out to crosses and swimming back and then back again. And we like touch base every, sort of
Good.
Just the safety sort of thing. Like Louise is sort of, she's done a few open water swims, but again, the cold water is, you just sort of want to be checking in with each other. And
No, that's great.
last week I was the one who was sort of like, I'm getting cold here. I'm going to go in. And as I say, like, I just want to gradually increase it. Like, I'd rather not cook myself and, sort of then have to have a couple of weeks where I'm sort of just, fighting like behind the 8 ball. So
you don't want to get, and you don't want to sort of have an experience that puts you off and makes you nervous and makes you tentative and gives you an element of fear. That's why you've got to be consistent and you've got to build up gradually, because you don't want to have a swim where you literally, you're on the next swim, you're worried that it's going to happen again. So that's why it's good to just, and as you say, just keep checking in. My friends I swim with always have a joke: one more pole, one more pole, one more pole. So it's like all those marks in the bay. You get to a pole. Are we good? One more pole, right? Let's go. One more pole. Quick chat. They chat a bit too much, to be honest. but no, that's good, mate. Well, listen, you have a good swim today. And let me know later how you go today, because it's good. The more I know about all my swimmers lining up, that's the big difference with this project. Other swimmers might have 300, 400, 500, 1,000, 4,000 swimmers. We have small numbers. So for me, a huge part is understanding exactly who's swimming and what their form is leading in. And then I know the field. I know, right, that person's maybe I've got to keep a bit of an eye on them. They're a bit slower. They get a bit colder. They don't stick together. They swim crooked, whatever it is.
Yeah. All right, beautiful.
So check in, let me know how you go.
Will do. I'll touch base later this afternoon. Much appreciated for this.
We'll do one afterwards. We'll do one after your victory.
Sounds good, mate. I look forward to it.
Good on you. Okay, Carl.
Cheers, Grant. See you, mate.
Bye.